I am not your Negro. This little gem I ran into just by chance on a Saturday night with not having to work, didn't want to grade exams through the rest of the night, and just happened to stumble upon it at 6 o'clock, got in a ticket for the 7 o'clock show, and I've just returned from a viewing of this little gem for African History Month. Now, you know, for me, if you know Diamond in the Rough, you know I am always talking history. I am always saying that every day is a good day to study Black history or African history. And this may be the fuse that sets off the discussion that America needs to have with itself. You've heard folks talk about in previous videos how the election of 45 has come at a price of America cannibalizing itself, being schizoid in what it wants. Its actions doing something totally different than what the verbiage is talked about. And Baldwin's words are used. This was one of the last pieces he wrote. The director, Raoul Peck, skillfully interweaves the words of Baldwin with archival footage, both archival, 60s, 50s, 40s, with that of contemporary times. He ties in these notions of what it means to be Black, representation of African Americans in the media, how we are used and exploited in terms of on a commercial front, and talks about racism in the way that puts the fire, like how Baldwin always loved to do. You put it at the feet of the people causing the chaos and the confusion, because this is certainly a discussion that has to be had within America itself. We can be part as observers, but they got some house cleaning to do, as the film constantly reminds us and says for us to do. I like the fact that this film will be one I think could be used in history classes, sociology classes, cultural anthropology classes, cultural sensitivity classes. And even though the discussion is on the Negro, it is on a larger scale also talking about how how these other folks who are not in the power class, how they are to be integrated into this thing called the United States. And America is going to have a soul-searching, deep discussion with itself. When I say deep, I mean deep down past the soul to the essence of the soul, and it being truthful with itself before it can be truthful with others. And psychoanalysis is hard. You got to attack yourself first before you can see how you fit within the larger context and world in which you operate. And that's what this film hopefully will be able to do. It ties in contemporary events with the 40s and the 50s and how we both are affected by racism. Those who are in power are psychologically nulled and void itself into a false sense of security. Because when you have to control the so-called outsider people by force, that means you don't have control. And even for us who are in the affected, dominated community, it affects us the same way in terms of this question of racism, because we have internalized these issues of self-hate, these issues of lack of sufficiency, issues of lack of competency. And not only Baldwin talked about it, King talked about it, Malcolm talked about it, Martin Delany talked about it, Frederick Douglass talked about it. All of the greats, Marcus Garvey talked about it. All of them, Francis Cress Welsing and others, all of them talked about this idea of internalizing of self-hate, to where either we become immobilized or we become zombies to the music, so to speak, believing the hype that they've set out for us to believe. So this is something for all ages to see. For some, I think they will find it hard to watch. I'm used to the narration. I know the lay of the land. I have no problem in identifying where stuff is jacked up. I will certainly use this in my class, but more importantly, I think it's open for a wider discussion to have folks self-analyze and really come clean and fess up with what needs to be done. So, Diamond in the Rough signing off. This is the film to see for this African History Month as we close out And again, I just come in from the cold. I probably look like I'm still cold because I am. And again, the number one best film of 2017, I'm going to call it. It's going to win awards as more and more people get to see it. So do a search in your community, do a search where you live, find this film, go see it, drive if you have to go see it. Get your tickets on Fandango and do it early because the tickets sell out quick. Excuse me. Several shows were sold out before I could even get in, but I got in at the last minute using the Fandango website. So that's it. Diamond in the Rough signing off. Everyone have a good, restful, excuse me, an educational night. Thanks. Bye.